there, it's tnoozLIVE at ITB, presented by Travelair. Martin Cowen, contributing editor for tnoz, in the hot seat this afternoon. Or I don't know if my seat is hot, but Filipov, who's Vice President of Product for Skyscanner, is in the hot-ish seats. Thanks for joining us, Filip. I know you've had a bit of a trek to get here, but thanks for making the effort. So, Skyscanner, everybody, I assume, knows what Skyscanner is, meta/marketplace. So just wondering, are there any sort of products that you've developed recently that you're quite proud of in terms of the take-up from Skyscanner's end users, the customer, but also any products that you've developed that have resonated particularly with your airline partners?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invitation, and it's not a hot seat actually, it's quite comfortable, so good. I hope for a good conversation. In terms of product development, we split a little bit our thinking between users and partners, as you mentioned, and on the user front, we've introduced an interesting set of ideas that use machine learning to power specific product features that we want to have for the user. So for example, we have been working on a number of different widgets which are shown in the search results, and it's entirely powered by machines to decide which one widget to show to what customer at one point. On the partner side, we started an initiative, and this is not necessarily recent, which we call direct booking, which is branding the airline experience and ensuring that a customer can complete the transaction within the environment of Skyscanner. And we think that has resonated well with our airline partners and our OTA partners. We're live in a number of different markets. More recently, we've done a number of improvements on our partner portal, where our partners can come in and see how they perform and see areas where they can optimize. So in terms of data, giving back to our partners in terms of areas where they could perform better, how the market is performing versus their own performance, has been something that our partners have really enjoyed, and we're definitely powering into that area.
Okay, so the direct booking within the Skyscanner search results, you call that direct booking? Is that facilitated booking, or how do you brand that internally?
We call it direct. Facilitated is what we used before, which was exactly the same experience but not branded. Okay. Once we started branding the experience, we think that it's a lot closer to the experience on an airline or OTA website. So it functions the same way as the direct booking. It goes directly into the systems of our partners. So that's why we decided that direct is probably the right word. Now, different players in the industry use insta booking. Some of them use assisted booking. We call it direct. Fundamentally, it is the same kind of experience for each one of us. Okay,
so that's part of the, we've talked previously about the direct booking. Is that part of the move to the meta as a marketplace?
Yes, it is, because a marketplace essentially connects users and partners. The historical meta search experience, where people would come and compare, which is still valid today, ended up with an exit or redirect into somebody else's site. When you work with the number of partners we work with, which is more than 1,700, actually closer to 2,000, that in essence means you have almost 2,000 different checkout experiences. So to bring closer the marketplace, the users and the partners, we thought that it would be a better experience to have a single, kind of like more unified checkout experience for our users, and that's what we've been building over the last few years.
I mean, so is that where you see the meta going more towards this marketplace? Because one thing we've noticed a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of the meta sites, your peers and competitors are also adopting this marketplace in inverted commas approach. I mean, when all metas are marketplaces, how can you differentiate yourself? Is it the product experience? Is it, how can you differentiate yourself from the other players in the market, of which there are quite a few?
That's a great question. Each one of our competitors probably has their own strategy. Our focus is to create a great experience for our users, and we take feedback in terms of data points from our users, what they interact. There's direct feedback as well. You're absolutely right. The product experience will be the differentiator. The depth of the supply chain as well. How many markets can you cover? Do you have all of the available prices and all of the available players in your marketplace? Some of our competitors historically have decided to stay in the North American market, which has a limited set of suppliers. We have been born in Europe. We have expanded into Asia, and lastly, we went almost into North America and those markets. So we know how to work with a number of different suppliers. And I think product experience paired with the depth of our supply chain, combined through technology will be what will differentiate us. Today, it is doing it already, but also in the future.
Okay, I mean, you mentioned that Skyscanner's got a fairly global footprint. I just wondered if you could think of anything that sort of worked in one market but bombed in another, just to sort of let people know that, you know, that it's not a one-size-fits-all and that you have to be adaptable to local market conditions.
You're right, and not every market is the same, especially culture and languages, but also the modes of transportation or accommodation or car rental. So I'll give you an example. I'm not sure if it has bombed in another market. We're testing it out now, but we had quite a few requests to introduce rail in India, which we did.
And rail in India?
Yes, yeah, and historically we haven't had that in our other markets just because the demand was not there, but now we're revisiting that and we're experimenting in a number of markets. We experiment all the time. I mean, we've done experiments with buses in specific markets. The take-up was not necessarily as much as we hoped, so we decided to discontinue it at that stage. But over time, maybe there will be an opportunity for us to revisit it again. In terms of other technologies that are quite interesting, voice, for example, we were the first ones to integrate with Amazon Alexa, which is great experience. Has been hard in terms of particular purchases, but has been incredible in terms of interactions with users. So that's probably a product that we still need to define and configure, because for a comparison setting, it might not be the best experience just to have voice input and output.
Okay. I think it was probably just over a year ago that you surprised us all by being bought by Ctrip. We on tnoooz, we were all wondering what Ctrip was going to do, and they went ahead and bought Skyscanner. So that's been, you know, more than a year now. I mean, so what have you learnt from being part of Ctrip, and also, interestingly, what have you as Skyscanner been able to share with Ctrip?
Our models are different, and the experience has been amazing. The team there is incredibly smart, and they've done something outstanding in China, and they're expanding internationally, and I hope that we'll be able to add to that success internationally, specifically with our brand. A lot of learnings in terms of how an agency operates. Because historically we work with partners on the agency side, but now having the learnings from how a user interacts post the booking and having access to this has been an eye-opener for us. What can we add in the meta experience that actually can solve a problem down the line? So some of the learnings, like more information about the particular product. We've been starting including amenities into our flights product, which historically I haven't done. Is a good example of how we learn of what Ctrip has been doing and what they've done in China and then in the markets near them, and what we can take on. On the reverse relationship, what we have taught them, and I hope this is the case and probably a better question for them, is we've managed to operate in a number of different markets. We manage more than 45 different markets, and 30 languages. We're available in every single country globally. So that learning how you go about, you know, potentially exploring a market which is not necessarily your home market, but quite far away in terms of culture, in terms of use of technology, is something that we have shared back with the team at Ctrip, and I do hope they find those findings useful. In fact, we've expanded some of our partnership outside of China and like into South Korea, into Hong Kong, into English-speaking markets, which has been really good.
Okay, that's a nice way to round off. I like the idea of you learning from Ctrip, but also that Ctrip can learn from an Edinburgh-based Meta. It's been around for a while, hardly a startup, but I think it's great. It just shows how global and connected this wonderful industry that we work in is. So, Filip, thanks very much. Martin Cowen from tnoooz just signing off shortly. We'll be back.